Distinguished guests and fellow Soroptimists. We pay our respect to all the Indigenous people of Australia and especially members of the Wurundjeri tribes of the Kulin Nation on whose land we're having this luncheon today. We pay respect to their elders of the past, present and any future elders. Now for those guests who are not Soroptimists, and there's not many I think, you may be asking what is a Soroptimist? The derivation of the word is from two Latin words, sorrow sister and optima, meaning the best. And in the words of International President Maureen Maguire, as Soroptimists we work to ensure the full participation of women and girls in society, which is so critical to addressing the complete and daunting challenges that women in the world face today. We do this through our advocacy, awareness and action at local, national and international levels. Education is a basic human right and it is one of the strongest instruments for reducing the many barriers that affect women and girls around the world today. Education increases a woman's empowerment and improved quality of life for not only her but her future family as well. And one day hopefully we'll get gender equality and equity. Now this, I'd like to present our table of speakers today. President of Australia, Theresa Lifford. You don't have to stand, just put your hand up. Okay. SI past President of Federation, Dr. Christine Payton. Dr. Nuria Salihi, AM founder and Executive Director of the Afghan Australian Development Organisation. The Honorary Diana Bryant, AOKC, a former Chief Justice of the Family Court and President of the Graduate Union Council. The Honorary Frances Mullane, a former Judge of the County Court Victoria. Merrill Davis, Associate Professor from the School of Biosciences. Karen Thornton, past SI Victorian Region President. And Diana Carpino, sorry Diana, President and now Secretary of the Neiman Pick Type C Foundation, which is supported by SI Melbourne. Dr. Yawei Hun, past recipient of the 2004 SI Dame Margaret Blackwood Scholarship and a member of Melbourne Club 218, and she also is doing research into the Neiman Pick Type C disease research. And we also have Dr. Nuria's niece here today, I think.
No, she's ill, unfortunately. She is ill, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you for that. Now, I'd like to introduce our Australian President, Theresa Lifford. She's past Region President. And we're really honoured that you can actually address us on SI and also propose the toast to SI Melbourne 75 years.
Thank you, President Shirley, and I'd like to acknowledge our honoured guests, friends, fellow Soroptimists to this amazing event. It gives me great pleasure to be present here today and to be part of your 75th anniversary of Charter celebrations. It's actually quite hard to believe, but I was actually at your 70th anniversary of Charter in 2018. While I was your Soroptimist International of the then Southwest Pacific Federation President. And today I'm here in the capacity of all these hats that we wear, Soroptimist International Australia National President. From the charter of the club on the 24th of June 1948 to today, your club has achieved 75 years of service to women and girls in Melbourne and within the state of Victoria in Australia. This is an extraordinary achievement, and for those of you present today to be able to carry on the work of the women who were the original charter members of SI Melbourne, you are continuing an amazing legacy of Soroptimists here in Victoria. I'm actually going to take you on a little walk through history, which has been educational for me as well. So looking at the history books, which we've seen recently published over the last couple of years, we can see that between 1948 and 1949, for some of you who weren't born then, there were 7 clubs chartered in Australia and 2 in New Zealand. I like to put the New Zealand bit in because I'm an ex-Kiwi. And this shows an incredible accomplishment. And it was all thanks to one remarkable woman, who was Mrs. Florence Rutter. So Mrs. Florence Rutter was a founder president of the Central London Soroptimist Club. And after her daughter married and resettled in Australia, she came across. So she travelled in 1946 to visit her daughter, having first spoken to the British Federation about her trip. Florence wrote in December 1946 to the British Federation that she had made contact with the business and professional women in Melbourne. But in February 1947, she reported that she was not at all sure that Melbourne was ready for a Soroptimist club. But things changed. During the early months of 1947, Florence continued to encourage promising women, and a meeting was organised for the 8th of July 1947. Florence stayed optimistic about chartering the club before she set sail, no aircraft in those days, ladies, on the Orion for Britain on the 24th of July. Membership fees had been paid, and an arrangement for the charter document to be sent from London by the 22nd of July. So no phones, no faxes, no email, okay, had to come by mail. In July, Florence wrote to Miss Warner of the British Federation, thanking her for the authority to start the club in Melbourne, and that the club had the promise of being a first-class club. Unfortunately though, and this is probably the tyranny of distance and all those things that come into play, the Melbourne club did not charter until the 24th of June 1948. Melbourne was club number 150 in the British Federation. So when this club was chartered, we were still part of Great Britain and Ireland, the Federation of Great Britain and Ireland. Now, as you've been seeing on the screens that's coming through here, there have been an amazing array of prominent women who have been involved with SI Melbourne. But I've taken just to talk briefly today about one of them, and that was Dame Margaret Blackwood. Now, Dame Margaret Blackwood returned from England to Melbourne in the 1950s to take up an appointment in the botany school at the University of Melbourne. Dame Margaret was one of the first women of her generation to take up science. She continued to build her international reputation with her work in plant cytology and genetics, but she also took a great interest in education and women in her community, which saw her being involved with many groups and committees, including nearly 40 years that she was a member of Soroptimist International. In 1957 to 59, she was the president of the Soroptimist Club of Melbourne, and from 1957 to 58, she was also the Australian chairman, or chairperson as we should say today, of the Soroptimist International Association. And in 1959, she was elected to sit as a member on the SIA Advisory Committee for Extension, and extension means membership and training. And the committee then would see that the Australian and New Zealand clubs would play a major part in taking Soroptimism to the Far East. And from those points, that's where Soroptimist International, the Southwest Pacific, was also born. In honour of this remarkable pioneer, there is the Dame Margaret Blackwood Soroptimist Scholarship, which is presented each year at the University of Melbourne. And I believe today that we've got some of the recipients that are here. This scholarship provides up to $10,000 in support of a female graduate research students in the Faculty of Science in the disciplines of plant, animal or viral genetics. It's an amazing field, but it's an amazing legacy. In 2021, Soroptimist International celebrated 100 years of Soroptimism across the world. The clubs here in Australia have and continue to play an important part in this worldwide organisation by continuing to strive for the advancement of the status of women, high ethical standards, human rights for all, equality, development and peace, and for the advancement of international understanding, goodwill and peace. I thought the following during World War II from a British Soroptimist actually covers off on quite a lot of things that are going on in our current world today. And she wrote, "Two things are clear to us in the midst of the bewilderment and distress of these present days. One is that, as a band of women whose aim is the furthering of international understanding, we must stick together and keep in active working order our Soroptimist organisation, the value of which is greater than ever before. The other is that we emerge from this nightmare and the struggle is over. We must be stronger than ever to see that all our influence is, in this case, on the side of justice and lasting peace." Now that quote is actually still quite pertinent today, in a world where we have wars continuing to be fought, natural disasters that are more prevalent and more damaging and dramatic to our communities than in past years, a global pandemic which basically rendered the world into a standstill position, and now followed with economic upheaval and civil unrest, clearly shows that Soroptimists across the world are needed more than ever to continue to work towards our mission to transform the lives of women and girls through education, empowerment and enabling opportunities. So today, Soroptimist International Melbourne continues to contribute to this mission and the principles of Soroptimist International. And for those of us here today, to be able to celebrate this important milestone is testament indeed to what SI Melbourne has achieved over 75 years since its original charter. Happy anniversary, Soroptimist International of Melbourne. May you enjoy many more. So I would ask you to raise your glasses. I've got one here. Soroptimist International, Melbourne, congratulations and thank you from the bottom of our hearts as Soroptimists in this room for the amazing contribution that you have made to our society in Australia, but also here in the state of Victoria. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Congratulations.
Thank you, Teresa, for that wonderful rundown of the SI Melbourne's history for us. And thank you very much for your wishes for the club. And as Teresa has mentioned before, she talked about the Margaret Dan Margaret Blackwood Scholarship, and I was lucky to be one of the recipients back in 2004, and that has really helped me to complete my PhD, and also an encouragement for me to continue on to a science research career. So thank you to the Soroptimist International of Melbourne, and I hope that I will be able to apply this spirit of Soroptimism in my work in mentoring and also supporting future generation of female scientists. And with that, I'll just like to say thank you to everyone for coming here to celebrate with us today, and please enjoy your lunch.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Yahweh. We have some apologies. Kerry Beer, SI President of Victoria, Carol Harper and Janet Irwin, two of our Melbourne Club members who are not well enough to be here with us today. And Janet wanted a message to come through that she's here with Carol in spirit with us. She rang me last night. So. Dr. Jane Zimmerman put in an apology for not being able to attend, and Leah Elwood-Brown, past Melbourne member and past Federation President. We received congratulations from Leonie Thompson, SI Gold Coast, Chris Knight, SI's MNI, and Maria Solves, I think it is. So thank you to them. We've had messages from Christine Johnson, the SEEP, our Federation President, and I'll just read hers to you. Dear President Shirley and members of SI Melbourne and other members of Melbourne, Sorops. I sincerely apologise for not being able to be there in person as you and the club members and guests celebrate a milestone birthday such as 75 years. When SI Melbourne was chartered in 1921, the world was very different, but sadly, the issues affecting women are the same then as now. Over 75 years, your club history is rich in membership projects and advocacy work. A club does not survive and flourish unless it reassesses itself and stays relevant to its community. Congratulations and many more birthday wishes to SI Melbourne Club and members. So thank you for that. We also have messages from Margaret Lobo, past International President, and Dr. Donald Davis, SIC Program Director and past President of the United Nations Association Australia Queensland, Dr. Jane Zimmerman, past International President, Lorna Mead, Honorary Life Member of the Federation, Eileen Mitchell, Federation past President, Lee Elwood-Brown, who's now the Soroptimist International Directory for Advocacy 2225, Lee Elwood-Brown, SI Director of Advocacy, I've done that one, past Melbourne Club member and SI Brisbane at the moment. That is about it, so enjoy your lunch, and we have all the profits from today will go directly to the AADO, and so we ask you to be as generous as you can with your raffle tickets, and thank everyone for attending. Thank you.
Now it's my role to introduce our next speaker, Frances Mullane. So if I just give an introduction, Frances is a Monash University alumnus. She retired in 2020 following a career in law spanning 44 years. Frances served in several judicial roles, a judicial registrar for both the Industrial Relations Court of Australia and the Federal Court of Australia, a county court judge and a vice president of the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. So she's had several roles. She's been on the Advisory Council to Monash University Accident Research Centre, the Australian Judicial Officers Association, and she's here today as her role with the International Association of Women Judges, and she's recently been in Marrakesh. Sounds very exotic. She's on the Melbourne Women's Fund, a giving circle of professional women, and something that I'm very interested in, the General Sir John Monash Foundation Chairman Circle. So would you please welcome Frances Mullane.
Thank you, Robin. Look, I'll begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which we meet, the Wurundjeri people, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Now, I've got a limited time. Robin cut that back, I think, during the week, even from 15 minutes to 10. So I'm going to gallop through this. The Australian Association of Women Judges is a member of the International Association of Women Judges. And so I'll start by offering you some background, and in the time available I'm going to focus on the resettlement of 9 Afghan women judges in Melbourne and 8 in Sydney since November 2021, and also on the Partner Buddy program, which was first established in Victoria to offer friendship and support to our sister judges and their family members. So who's the International Association of Women Judges? In 1991, some 50 women judges from around the world founded this association. They had the vision of increasing the number of women judges and promoting equal justice for women and girls throughout the world. And today that association is a non-profit, non-governmental, apolitical, powerful membership of a network of more than 6,500 women judges from around the world, 100 countries and territories we come from. And I think it's fair to say we're committed to equal justice and the rule of law. The Australian Association, which is a member of the International Association, was formed in 1992. I've been a member since 2006, and in the 6 years prior to retiring from the bench in 2020, I served as Vice President, and I've remained an active committee member since then. And Diana Bryant, who's the President of the Graduate Union, is also a member and an active committee member, long-standing one. The Australian Association is part of the Asia Pacific region. We're relatively wealthy compared to a number of the countries in the region, so we work to assist other judges in the Asia Pacific area. And an example of that is at the biennial conference in Morocco, Marrakesh, this year. We sponsored several women judges from Papua New Guinea. This brings me to my discussion of Afghanistan. The legal system in Afghanistan is a combination of civil and Islamic law, Sharia law. Afghanistan is now ruled by the Taliban, who entered Kabul on the 15th of August 2021 and established what they call the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. And I understand that the Taliban is an Islamic fundamentalist and nationalist group that from 1996 had ruled most of the country before being overthrown by the US in December 2001. And I'm sure Nuria will correct me if I get any of this wrong. I'm being careful, Nuria. However, following the US invasion, both the Taliban and ISIS, which is another fundamentalist group, continued to commit acts of violence, including suicide bombings and that targeted civilians and defence facilities and other institutions such as courts. The Afghan Association of Women Judges was formed in 2012, and you'd be surprised to learn maybe that there were 150 women judges in Afghanistan at that time, and that number had risen to some 270 before the fall of Kabul. Some of these women had been sitting as judges before the Taliban took over in 1996, and they were removed from their positions, but then they were reinstated after the American invasion. The life of a judge in Afghanistan had never been safe before the 15th of August 2021. Women leaders were targeted because religious extremists will never accept that they should exercise power or authority. And a sad example I can share is that of 2 female Supreme Court judges. I'm not worried by that if you want to stay. 2 female Supreme Court judges who were assassinated on their way to court in Kabul on 17 January 2021. Their vehicle was targeted by gunfire and they and their driver died. We had an international conference that year. It was a pandemic year and it was an online conference in May 2021. And a colleague of the deceased judges spoke of how women judges had to learn to live with the violence directed toward them if they were to continue to uphold their duty to the rule of law and the administration of justice. This brave woman explained that instead of travelling in a vehicle with a driver to work, she travelled by bus wearing hijab and a face covering, which gave her some degree of anonymity. After the conference, that's the conference in May 2021, the International Association established an Afghan support committee. The US had already announced its full withdrawal of troops, and that was by September 2021, originally. And as the Taliban reclaimed territory in Afghanistan, women judges sitting in the regional courts went into hiding. Once the Taliban reached Kabul, women judges also took steps to hide their identity. For instance, they hid burnt or buried papers and clothing that identified them as judges. Before the troops withdrew, the support committee tried to get judges and their immediate family members on official evacuation flights with very limited success. They were able to secure the evacuation of 30 judges on a Polish military aircraft after a lawyer in Poland read about the women's plight and offered assistance. I think you'll all in this room be familiar with the reports and the film of the conditions at Kabul airport in 2021 as people fled the country. You needed courage, you needed tenacity to make your way through to the flights if you were lucky enough to have papers to board a flight. After the troops left in late August, official evacuation options were scarce. So the International Association partnered with other non-governmental organisations such as the International Bar Association, the International Commission of Jurists and the Jewish Humanitarian Response. Together they chartered flights that evacuated some 130 judges and family members went with them before a flight was stopped by the Taliban. I'm happy to say that nothing happened to the people on that flight, although they got questioned. We still have about, and I'm a bit rubbery on the numbers because things change, 54 judges and their families hiding and at risk. There is still work to be done, moving the families one at a time into neighbouring countries, and as you can imagine, the International Association is committed to that work. I understand that up to 52 refugee judges are still in transit, and whilst another 148 have made it to their final destinations. So now, the resettlement in Australia. 17 judges and their families elected to settle here, and after spending weeks at Howard Springs, the first 4 arrived in Victoria in late November 2021. The Australian Association, this is where we came into our own, had already started fundraising to help support their resettlement, and before their arrival in Melbourne, a small group of judges, some retired and some still sitting, formed the first Buddy Partner group. Under this program, the Buddies provide support and friendship to a refugee Afghan judge and her family. And Diana here is the Buddy Judge for Judge Shakila Shagaf and her family, whereas retired Appeals Court Justice Pamela Tate and I co-buddy another judge, Judge Miriam Dilaram Abid, and that's the formidable looking woman at the top right-hand corner there. I can't tell you much about Dilaram at this stage because I don't have much time, but maybe one day. The 9 judges settled in Victoria range in age from their 30s with young families to judges in their 60s with grown-up families. Most are now settled in Dandenong, Narre Warren and Pakenham, and they're within reach of a large Afghan community. The judges each have different needs. The Australian Association has provided some limited funding towards legal costs associated with obtaining their permanent protection visas, and I understand they've all received their visas. The costs also went to educational expenses such as English language classes, and some travel expenses incurred by the judges to attend functions where they've been invited to speak, or as recently occurred when the judges attended Government House to meet the Governor, and that's that lovely photo over there with some of the buddy judges and so on in February this year. We believe it's important to keep their stories alive, and we're working on that. Apart from providing our personal support, the individual buddy judges tend to cover whatever cost they can, such as the cost of transporting our sister judges to and from events, and where necessary we cover the cost of interpreting and translating documents, and on occasion we help them with the purchase of items such as a computer or even a second-hand car, because they need a car to get the family around. We also do what we can to connect our judges to services, and an example of that is a former director of the Lyceum Club is the founder and CEO of an organisation called Women Can. The Victorian Department of Transport has provided that organisation with funding for driving to employment program for called women, that's culturally and linguistically diverse women. And 5 of our judges have participated and completed that course, and film of 3 of these judges meeting the Minister for Transport is available on the Minister's website if you want to have a look. We've also negotiated with a law firm specialising in immigration law to provide free legal services to our judges, some of whom are still frantically trying to get visas for their family members who remain at great risk. The Afghan women judges are well educated and they're highly motivated to use and develop their skills in their new country. The younger judges had learned some English at school and they're busy honing their English language and computer skills. And I expect if not all of these women will undertake the necessary further study and return to the law if that option is open to them. And an example of one judge having returned to the law is a Sydney judge, woman who's settled in Sydney, is already working as a paralegal. The older judges who are learning English for the first time will likely need to accept that they will not be able to return to act in judicial roles. Dilaram, my buddy judge, is in her early 60s, and in February she underwent brain surgery to clip 2 aneurysms. I'm pleased to say she made a full recovery, though at this stage we don't envisage that she will practice law as a member of the legal profession again in Australia. We are, however, working on a project with the Asian Law School at Melbourne University to source suitable roles for Dilaram and other judges. And an example of that is the Asian Law School has obtained a small grant that allows Dilaram to provide a limited number of hours of work as a research assistant to a scholar based in Chicago. He's writing a book on the Hanafa Code, which is a code in the civil law, I think, in Afghanistan. It's early days. I'm proud to report that on the 1st of March this year, at a ceremony at Duke University in North Carolina, the Bolsh Judicial Institute awarded the International Association the 2023 Bolsh Prize for the Rule of Law. That prize recognises individuals or organisations that have created, promoted or preserved the rule of law nationally or internationally. And on this occasion, the prize recognised the decades of work by members of the International Association in supporting and advancing women judges around the world. And importantly, it recognises the recent work in evacuating, supporting and resettling Afghan women judges. Now, if I have time, I'd like to share an extract from an article written by journalist Julie Zago and published in The Age in April 2022 after she interviewed Dilaram. And this is a quote from that article. A few weeks ago, Dilaram's son-in-law in Afghanistan asked if he should burn her judicial robe. It was a dangerous artefact after all. Despite her fears for the family's safety, she told him no, he must keep the garment for all it signifies. And this is a quote from Dilaram. If you burn it, it's like you're disrespecting it, she said. So I'll add here, those other photos too, the photos of the UN photos actually of the Afghan women judges association meeting in Afghanistan. So I just thought you'd be interested to see them in their full gear. So lastly, I'd like to say it's been a humbling experience and a great privilege to work with these women. I'm sure Diana would agree with me on that. And I thank you for the opportunity to keep their stories alive.
Thank you very much for coming and give us a great talk about all the insight of Afghanistan women and judges and things like that. We only know a little bit about Afghan, but then now we know very detailed about everything. Thank you very much. And this is just a little gift for you. And yeah. Thank you very much.
Everyone, Dr. Nuria would like to say a few words of thanks for the support of the AADO.
Honourable guests, good afternoon. I am delighted to be here today to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the organization. I am really delighted to be with you because this organization is well known around the world and with a lot of success. And I heard a lot in France and London when I was and everywhere. And really I'm proud of your organization. And also I would like to say a special thanks to the President of Soroptimist International Australia and the Honourable Teresa Lefford, and also the former Judge of the Family Court of Australia, Honourable Diana Bryant, and the guest speaker that I know him and I know her and I met her 2 times before, and it is she was the former County Court of Australia, Judge Francis Millan. The President of the Association, Shirley Dillard, and also the organization of the 2 days event, which I know them and I know how much they love their work, and also they're my good friends for many years. It is very Sheila and also Robin. Sheila and Robin. I know Sheila for many years, and she's so hard worker person. And every time when she is somewhere, she tries to do some good job for the association. And also personally, I thank her because she helped me a lot. And especially, they are always asking me for the Afghan women, how they are going in Afghanistan, what they are doing. And, you know, me being an Afghan Australian, it's very important when people they approach me and they ask me, and it makes me happy that okay, it's not only me suffering to see the event. Everyone is doing it, and everyone is thinking of Afghan women. So it's quite natural or not. So I also, in Afghanistan, I had 4 projects going from 2002 until last year. But unfortunately, because of the lack of finance situation and money and support, I stopped 2 and I kept 2. 2 that we are running. One is the program for the life skill for women in the villages, in rural area. From 2002 until now, we trained 2,500 women in the villages. And for 6 months of basic literacy and 6 months of learning something. And most of the time women, they select the tailoring and dressmaking. So we know why, and it's good that they have something to think about and they're working for the village, not only for themselves. The second, and I would like now to start working with women, especially young girls, in agriculture. It's important because if they don't go to school, they should do something. Doing something, the best for Afghanistan is the agriculture, because 80% of Afghans are farmers, we shouldn't forget. And it's very easy, and they know, girls know what they are doing, and they are already working on the field. So why we don't develop some projects for them to work with solar system for the water and also for irrigation and for their drying the fruits, because Afghanistan is the most important import of Afghanistan is the fruit and vegetable to the neighboring countries. So we should work on that. And also giving electricity for the villages, because in Afghanistan only 20% of people they benefit from the electricity. 80% they've got dark nights. Children cannot study, and we should do something. So, and I acknowledge and I thank again your organization to help us. Believe me, each thing that you're doing, it's important for us. And our second, and now the project that we put on the table is the helping year 12 girls in Afghanistan. Last year when I went to Afghanistan, people, they came in to see me and they were talking about, wow, we can help them. With empty hands, you can't do anything. All I was thinking to drop the master science teacher training for the teachers and go to and help the year 12 girls. And we did, with 5 subjects. And they finished the test, and they were very successful. We did it for 400. They went and they attended the classes. And then there were some problems in Afghanistan. The parents were worried about their daughters to go out, and so we said, okay, now we can set up online teaching. With online teaching, we helped 400, but we need to do more, because now the actual government gave them time to set up for the last exam, and for exam to entry to the university, so they can go if they succeed. So we are working, and I hope that you can help us to get some money together and help at least 2,000 girls to go and pass the exam. I don't continue. If you ask me how I am going with all of these problems that I have, I feel like an angel bird. Right? So for 21 years, I worked days and nights to get some money from Australians, not from the government, from Australians, from you, and ran projects. We trained 6,000 teachers. We trained 2,500 women in the villages. We trained 95 carpenters because we wanted to keep happy the men. Right? So we did that. And suddenly everything left me. Nobody wants to help. Right? So I am by myself, just begging around and getting some money together to run my projects. Thank you very much, and peace be upon you.
Thank you, Dr. Nuria.
I've written this down because I might forget. So thank you very much for acknowledging our 50 plus years of membership. For me, 54 years of rewarding experiences, great friendships and opportunities to help others. But this is about Soroptimist International Melbourne, and they're 75 years. So congratulations to SI Melbourne, and keep on keeping on.
No, and I heartily concur.
One, two, three, go. Cheers. Cheers.
While Maggie and Christina are up, I'd just like to now acknowledge the two club members who have both achieved over 50 years of service each to Soroptimism. So there's over 100 years between the two of them. That's a lot of hours. So please put your hands together for Dr. Christine Payton and Margaret Maggie Mitchell.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Shirley getting the shot. Shirley.
Shirley.
Oh, sure, okay.
All right, big smile.
Cheese, holidays. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Nice to meet
We'll actually draw the raffle shortly, so please, if you haven't already bought a raffle ticket, please do, and we'll have some people going around picking them up for you. So. Excuse me, everyone. To close the meeting, there are a lot of people to thank for this getting this luncheon here today. A special thanks must go to Sheila Byard, who was the head of the committee. Yes, a committee of Robin Byrne and Yahweh, just a small committee, but they did a remarkable job, and Sheila above and beyond, so fantastic. So thank you so much from all the members of Melbourne Club. To Robin and for her organising of the speakers, thank you. Fantastic. And also for backing up Sheila, that was wonderful. Robin's going to represent Melbourne Club at our international conference in Dublin. And so we all wish her a very safe trip. It's her first conference, Soroptimist conference, so she'll enjoy it. So, yeah, and you'll make a lot of new friends. And especially to Yahweh for our fantastic invitation and program. It was extraordinary. It was really fantastic, Yahweh, and thank you for all the IT work as well. So, thank you. And a special thanks to some of the staff here at Graduate House, Shirley Ho, especially, and for Rosie. Where's Rosie? No, she's not around. Yeah, for helping Sheila get this plan organised and seating and everything. So thank you to them and the other staff who've served us for our lunch as well. So thank you. To Sylvia for the name badges. Thank you, Sylvia. And for Sue for our money situation. Sue, thank you so much. All their contributions together have made this luncheon possible. So thank you again, and thank you all for coming. And I'd like to acknowledge, I forgot before Ronit, I must apologise for that. Ronit from the National Council of Women, thank you so much for coming and supporting our 75 years today. Now, enjoy the rest of your time, and first of all, we've got a feel-good message that I thought you might like to hear. We give some parcels to an aged care home, and it just so happens that the one we actually used last year was the one that my daughter works at. And there's a feel-good story from one of the presents that was actually given, and she'd just like to tell you very briefly a few words about it. And thank you to my two granddaughters for presenting the bouquets to Christine and Maggie.
Shirley, just before we go back to your family again, Audrey and Ida done a terrific job on the registration desk. And counting the money.
Beautiful. So I work at Estia Health in Leopold, down Mornington, down Bellarine Peninsula. Last year at the end of the year we were in lockdown, so it was a very isolating time for all our residents. When the gifts were given, it was amazing. Just the surprise, the sheer joy it brought them. One of them, very sadly though, passed away 2 weeks ago, and the actual throw rug, the blanket, has now been, it's very sad for me too, has been passed on to the 13-month-old great-grandson. So the gift does keep on going. Yeah. Oh, and the brooches, every day, that just cheered them up. Like, it really did, yeah. Like, it makes them feel like they're going somewhere special. Yeah. So, very good. Thank you.
I just thought you'd like to know. It seems like a little thing to do, but there's so many in nursing homes that really have no visitors throughout the year. What we do with these small gifts that we take at Christmas time is very worthwhile, and it brings so much joy.